Everyone, hello. I hope you're doing wonderful this evening, and you're ready for a wonderful lesson. I like to keep these really. It's all about letting you into my study habits, and I thought that today I would take you through something that our company is going through. And we're studying this every single day. In fact, we've been going over the exact same chapter now for over a week, and we study one of these for 2 weeks. So we're reading it every single day for 2 weeks. The repetition is the key. And I've gone through U squared before, and it's so different when you get to understand how to study. I didn't know how to study. Bob taught me, and it's got to become part of your paradigm how to study. Sometimes you're going to go, oh my God, it's the same thing over again. What's going on? Pick something new, you know. We get bored of the same thing. It's part of this conditioning we've been brought up with. But it really is all about your awareness, and you must understand how to study. Very few people actually know how to study. It's not just about reading, memorizing, and recalling. This is about applying what I'm going over today with you into your life, into your position, into what it is that you're going after, and relating it to you. And I want you to really neutralize your mind. When you start to study, it's not about going in there with a negative attitude, because you won't allow it to work for you. Go in there neutral, and then you'll be able to get all those aha moments just while you're reading. And this is why Bob has been reading the same book, Think and Grow Rich, every day for over 55 years. Whether he's sick, whether he's tired, it doesn't matter. Think about that. And repetition is really something that very few people have as part of their paradigm. So I welcome you. If this is your first webinar, feel free to type any questions that you have in the chat area. This is Q&A. So while I share what I'm studying with you, gives you some extra perspective into your Thinking to Results program. My glasses are a bit reflective there. I also am here to answer any of your questions, okay? Because it doesn't matter where you're at. You could have been in this program over and over. It could be your 5th time, your 2nd time, your 1st time. You will always get something new, okay? Especially if you're open with sharing. So welcome if this is your first one, and I look forward to answering any of your questions, okay? So it doesn't matter where you're at in the lesson. Remember, you're going through it, and whatever you need always shows up exactly when you need it. And it happens all the time in every area of your life. So this is Suspend Disbelief. This is page 15 in U squared. Okay. Now, I want you to think of your goal. I've got my little whiteboard here handy because I thought it would be very useful to relate it to the sick person, okay? So let's just, this is where you're at here, okay? This is where you're at, and this is where you're going to go. This is that seagull. This is, you've never been there before, but you really want it, okay? That's your desire. So keep that in mind when I'm reading this with you. It's what you're shooting for. Act as if your success is certain. Act as if it's certain. Instead of holding back because you don't have hard proof that you can make a quantum leap, see if you end up with evidence proving that you can't. Proving that you can't, in fact, achieve the seagull. The chapter's all about, excuse me, suspending disbelief. Suspend not believing. Just make the jump. Act as if your success is guaranteed. How would you be feeling if your success was guaranteed? How would you be acting if your success is guaranteed? and then see which set of ideas you should believe in. You see, we've been downloaded all of these beliefs, and they have only given us the results that we've been getting. Now, if you're going after something, let's pretend our star's up here. If you're going after something you've never done before, you've never been there, it is on a different frequency. When you jump on that frequency, when you're acting as if that success is guaranteed, you're acting like that is yours, you are going to start thinking the thoughts of that person, and the ideas you need will come to you, but you've got to allow them in. A closed mind won't accept new ideas. An open mind will. So just allow it to be open and trust. Your mindset for the moment may be flawed by doubt and skepticism. We've all been downloaded that, haven't we? The idea of making a quantum leap in your performance, jumping from your present level of achievement. Think about your square of life right now. Your present level of achievement. That's your income, your relationships, your business, your health, whatever it is. Right? Think. The idea of making a quantum leap in your performance, jumping from your present level of achievement to one several stages higher in one bold stroke, is an alien idea. I was never brought up with the idea of making a quantum leap. The idea of turning a monthly income into a weekly income. Like, that's foreign concept to me. Or thinking of millions of dollars. If I had heard that when I was young, the beliefs I grew up with were, oh, they must be into drugs, or, there's something not right going on there. So all of a sudden, when you're shooting for that star that you want, you've never had that income before, you've wished for it, you've seen people with that income, also you think, and all of these beliefs are in the way. But you see, that person that you are, that's really earning that money, okay, the one that you're imagining, the one that has those results, they think that little differently. Because you see, the paradigm controls how you think. And so if it's controlling how you think, it's controlling all the decisions you're making. So you must fuse with the idea of what it is that you want, because everything's already here. Energy can't be created or destroyed. When someone dies, when the body decomposes, it goes from one state to another. But the energy is all here. It's just moving from one state to another. And you see, your idea, lesson 1, okay, your goal, your fantasy, is already here. But you've got to hold that with that feeling and act from that place. Now, your paradigm is going to tell you all of these things. You're crazy, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And that is all of the things, all the beliefs that have been holding you back from achieving what it is that you want. But you see, the paradigm is in the way. But you cannot let that control you. It's controlled you for a very long time. But you cannot let that stop you, because it's comfortable to listen to it. Now let's go over this. The idea of making a quantum leap in your results right now, jumping from your present level of achievement to one several stages higher in one bold move. We're talking about one bold move. That's a quantum leap. Is an alien idea. You haven't been trained to think that way. You may have definite reservations about the possibility that you can make such exponential improvements at all, particularly with less effort and in a very abbreviated time frame. So the idea of going here in a short period of time with less effort than you're putting out now, that's a very foreign idea. that defies what most people are brought up with, that it takes time, that it's hard. You see, I know so many people that life's hard anyway. And they're broke and they're struggling and their relationships are bad. So whenever you're coming up against the terror barrier, think you're going through something that may not feel comfortable. But there are a lot of people out there that are miserable. And ask yourself, if I could achieve this result, this success was guaranteed, how would I feel right now? And it'll change your state. Because you've got to break free from that habit of letting all your circumstances control you. Now, it's very simple. It's not easy to do that, but it's also not easy to lose in life. But there are a lot of people doing that very well. In fact, the only difference between anyone that's really got the results that you want and you, let's think of that goal, that star, is that awareness. And you see, awareness is everything. Because when you frequently reevaluate the beliefs that you have, you're going to realize that many of them, in fact, most of them, are based on rubbish. And it's liberating when you change it, because you change everything. You only ever get what you expect. You only get what you assume. And ultimately, they're all beliefs. The experts generally agree, though, that people typically use only 10% of their true potential. Think about that. Only 10%. It's such a waste of a life if we don't go for it. I was watching Bob today and he said, if I was in a wheelchair, my mind was still really good, but my body wasn't functioning. And I'm sitting there thinking, if only I went for it, if only I did this, if only I listened to Bob, if only I listened to what I really wanted. You don't want to sit there and think, I hope, I wish, if only, and live away from your dreams. You want to live in them. So go for it. If we accept that argument that we're only using 10% of our brain, and even if there were no resources outside yourself that you could bring to bear on the situation, you still could do 10 times as well as you've been doing. So even based on this data, that we're only using 10% of our brain, of our mind, of our nervous system, you could still do 10 times better than what you're doing. Think about that. What's 10 times better than what you're doing? That's just the beginning. Your skepticism, which you presume is based on rational thinking and an objective assessment of factual data about yourself, is rooted in mental junk. So the rational thinking, the thinking that you've been relying on, and in looking at the results on the outside, you're looking at your circumstances and going, it's impossible to do that. How can anyone do that? I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the connections. I don't have the resources. I don't have the people. I don't have the clients. Whatever it is, it's rooted in mental junk. Your doubts are not the product of accurate thinking, but habitual thinking. I want you to write that down. My doubts are not the product of accurate thinking, but habitual thinking. Doubt and worry, it will not get you anywhere. I don't know anyone that's achieved amazing results worrying and doubting. Not one. But it's part of the paradigm. You see, we've been programmed to look at our five senses to feel security. But in fact, it's the wrong way of doing it, because the reason why they're in our reality, in our physical world, is because of our assumptions in the first place. I spoke to you last week about reading The Power of Awareness, and this whole book is all about assumptions. You will get what you assume. If you assume that you cannot do it, you will not do it. If you assume that you will achieve this goal, you will achieve it. Now, I'm not talking about conscious assumption, but subconscious assumption. It's got to be part of your paradigm. But with repetition, you will believe a lie. So you may as well believe that you can with repetition and emotion. Years ago, you accepted flawed conclusions as correct, began to live your life as if those warped ideas about your potential were true, and ceased the bold experiment in living that brought you many breakthrough behaviors as a child. I often read that sentence and I think, how did I act as a child? What did I do when I was a child? Where did my mind go? And sometimes I can't remember that far back to being 5, 4. But I then look at my children, and I've got a 4-year-old, and I look at how he behaves. And I catch myself more often than not trying to go, oh, just be careful, don't do this, just watch, you don't jump off the couch too far. And I used to go there. Now, with the repetition and studying this, I've allowed him to be, because he will learn. I don't need to interfere because he actually is perfect. He's not downloaded as much false belief and limitation as we have as adults, as I have. So the programming is still open. And I always think, how can I act more like my 4-year-old? Because he's a perfect example of freedom. They don't worry that, oh, Superman can't fly today because he's just, I don't know, something's wrong with his mechanical thing in flying. And like, he doesn't worry about why he can't fly. He just puts on an outfit and pretends to fly. Doesn't worry about what the weather is or Superman's bank account before he goes out and flies. Like, there's freedom. And if you have children or you're around children, I encourage you to look at them with a state of wonder and think, what can they teach me? It's time for you to find that faith you had in yourself before. It's time for all of you to find that faith you had when you were a child, before you accepted these false ideas about yourself and what you can and can't do. Okay, Mel, yes, Mel wants me to repeat that phrase. My doubts are not the product of accurate thinking, but habitual thinking. Worrying about money, worrying about your business, worrying about relationships, worry in general, you were downloaded. You're programmed to worry about that particular thing. And you will find the more you worry, the less you'll have that. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want this car. It's your dream car. And you're wishing and you're wanting it and you're dreaming about it and you've got photos everywhere. And then you see someone driving that car and you think, oh, they don't look fancy or they don't look anything. I will guarantee you that person that's driving the car you want isn't even thinking about the car. They're thinking about something else. They just assume that they have the car. It's part of their belief. How would you act if you had that car and you were driving it every day for 6 months? Eventually you'll get to the point where you'll be, I don't know, probably texting or talking to someone in the car. You're not thinking, oh my God, my car. Like, it goes. You're not acting like that anymore. How do you act when you have something? You've got it. You don't harp on about it when it's part of your belief system. A while ago, I had a car. I really wanted this Jeep, a Grand Cherokee. It was completely out of my my income at the time, and I really wanted it. I made a decision that night. I woke Matt up. I saw this out on TV. This is how I work. Said, "Oh, I'm getting that car. That's it." Made in my mind. Went to the car dealer, and they said, "No, you can't." You're like, because running your own business, I had my own business as a naturopath. Wasn't earning much money. There is no way in hell you're going to approve finances. I was very determined. Persistence pays off. I'll find a way. I'll find a way. Anyway, it ended up, one thing led to another. I ended up on the phone to some broker. And they said, yeah, you can have the car. It's easy. I can sort it out for you. Anyway, I got that car. I was like, oh my God, I got this car. Every single time I got in that car, I was so excited. It was like the first time I got in it. And then I hit the damn thing. It was big. It was a big car. And I freaked out. And then I got it fixed. And I hit it again. And I got it fixed. And then I ended up selling the car because I couldn't afford the car. But I was trying to, part of how we get brought up is we try really hard to look good. We don't want to look bad. So I didn't want to look bad. I didn't realize at the time. But I realize now in hindsight, I lost the car because I never believed subconsciously that I would always have the car. And so I always got what I assumed. So if you stay, it's like a honeymoon period of a relationship. It's really new and exciting, and then you get used to it, and then you get married and you move in or whatever happens, and you come home and you're not there driving home if you're in work or whatever it is going, oh, I hope my partner's home. I hope they're home. You just expect them to be home because they're your partner and that's where they live. You assume. You got to start assuming your goal to that degree. And at the beginning, it's foreign. You don't believe it because you've never been there. But that's okay because your subconscious can't determine what's real and what's imagined. So you just keep going. It's the intensity of the feeling behind it. It's time for you all to find that faith you had in yourself before. If you want to be skeptical of some ideas that truly deserve to be called into question, challenge the thoughts and beliefs that have argued against you taking a quantum leap. Challenge those thoughts and ideas that have been holding you back. Put those old inhibiting ideas to the test by going for it with everything you've got. Go for it with everything you've got. I'm sure you've achieved incredible things in your lives. You may have downplayed them. But think about something that at the time you didn't know how you were going to do it, but you did it. You went for it with everything that you had. That's what you've got to do now. For right now, just suspend disbelief. You don't have to be convinced that you can succeed in making a quantum leap, but don't keep on believing those old ideas you've been carrying around about your personal limits. If it will make it easier, hold off for a while on believing anything. Don't believe you can, don't believe you can't. Just don't believe, just suspend it. Because at least you're letting go of those old ideas. Because you cannot allow something new in if you haven't let go of an old idea. Sometimes it's really comfortable to hold on to an old idea even though we know it doesn't serve us. Why? Because we've been wired to hold on to it. We've been hardwired. And therefore letting go of it is a foreign place. It's a foreign feeling of letting go of that old idea. But when you can do that, you create space for you to believe in something that does serve you. Just act like you have complete faith. You don't have to have that faith straight away, but you can act like you have that faith. Merely do what you do if you knew you were going to succeed. This is a very important question. Every time I read this, I read it a few times. Merely do what you do if you knew you were going to succeed. What would I do if I knew I was going to succeed? What would I dress like tomorrow if I knew I was going to succeed? How would I treat my partner if I knew I was going to succeed? How would I treat my children? How would I treat myself? Everything has to change. Because you see, when you know you're going to achieve it, you're feeling it. You're in that high vibration. And you respond, you don't react. Merely do what you do if you knew you were going to succeed. Behave like you have that total conviction. Just pretend that you can't lose, right? Just let it go. And at least hold on to the idea and see what happens. Doubt is what does the most damage. And I see that all the time. I saw it as a health practitioner. I see it. You know this is true. Doubt is what does the most damage. So don't give it any mental space. Proceed boldly, as if it is completely inconceivable that you will experience anything other than a successful quantum leap. Proceed boldly. You've got to start acting boldly, thinking boldly. If you're going to be thinking like the majority of people around you, you're just going to keep getting what the majority of people get. You've got to act as if it's completely inconceivable that you will experience anything else but your goal. Anything else. If you must doubt something, doubt your limits. Because they are the only thing that's holding you back. So the repetition of you going through the program, going through in holding that image of what you want, writing it, thinking about it, feeling it, the repetition, get a whiteboard marker, write it on your mirrors. Whatever you need to do, read your self-image, read your goal in front of the mirror. If you haven't got to lesson 6 yet and created your self-image, that's fine. Just read that goal in front of the mirror. Your subconscious is completely deductive. It cannot tell the difference with what's real and what's imagined. It just cannot. How many times have you had a bad dream and you thought that it was real? You thought that it was what happened. You may have even been that upset about it. You woke up and you've gone, oh my gosh, thank God it's just a dream. That's your subconscious works like that. It cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So you've got to think and feel from that place. And now the paradigm's going to try to hold you back. But you see, this is why accountability is important. This is why the support that you have is important. Plugging into this, the study, that repetition. Okay? So I want you to remember, whenever you're worrying or doubting, I remember I was so scared when I went to the Matrix. I'd put everything on the line. We had borrowed more money than I even thought we could even borrow. I thought it was impossible to borrow that much. I had a small child. We're in a foreign country. No one knows what on earth we're doing. Our parents think we're on God knows what drug. And I remember going up to Bob one morning and I said, and he just looked at me and he probably thought I looked like a ghost. I just felt so sick, that extreme terror barrier, right? Now, I said to him, Bob, I don't know what's going on. I just feel sick. And he goes, look, you're in terror barrier. Now, you've got to ask yourself two things, will you have a roof over your head? And I said, yes. You know, there's always going to be a roof over our head. We'll find a way. And he said, will you ever let your son starve? I said, no, no way. He goes, so what are you worried about? Oh, God, oh gosh. What are you worried about? You know? So just know that what you're going after is worth it. The way I think about it is, if it was created in the first place, whether it's the lifestyle you want, the income you want, the freedom, essentially, I'm sure what you're all chasing is some form of freedom. If you could think about it, then you deserve to have it. Even if no one has it, even if you're the only person on the planet that has it, and you've never seen anyone have it, you still deserve to have it. Because you would never think of something unless you could actually achieve it. The thought would never have come to you in the first place. Okay, so I've got a question here. Question from Mel. In relating to obtaining your goal, for example, owning my own business on a large scale, a smaller opportunity presents itself. Do you accept that to begin with and build on it, or only go for the big end result? Great question, Mel. You were going to start attracting to you the people, the opportunities. Now, you might think that it's going to fall from the sky, like the business just going to go, boom, you wake up one day and it's a big, epic business. But it doesn't work like that. When you look in hindsight and someone that hasn't seen you for a while and your family and friends around you will go, it's overnight. It's an overnight success. But what you're going to find is it's a lot of strings of little successes. So you do go with that first step. You may not know anything else. You may not know how on earth you're going to get there to that big one. But something's come up. And you've got to trust your intuition. And the way I always think is, if I had achieved that, what would I be doing now? What would I think about this opportunity that's presented to me? Would I go for it? You got to trust it. So you're going to see, as you move forward, opportunity will present. So you go for that one, as long as it's in alignment with your goal. This is what's so important. If you're going after, I know you're after a health business, and let's say someone comes to you and says, oh, Mel, do you want to come in partnership with my fashion industry? And you're like, oh, it sounds good. But really, your passion's health. It's got to line up with you. And that's something, the more successful you become, the more opportunities are going to come your way. And you're probably going to end up saying no more than you're saying yes. Bob has so many people, a flood of emails, right? You're going to start getting contacted by people because you're more respected, you're a leader in your industry, and all of these things. But think about it. You know, any corporation, any business, they go through a funnel. If Bob said yes to every business, he'd probably have a cookie factory by now, because he eats sweets for breakfast. Not a good health paradigm sometimes. But the point is, make sure the opportunities you're saying yes to are in harmony with where you're going. Okay? It's got to all line up. And all these little goals, bang, you're going to hit that big star that you're shooting for. Okay? So it's where you are. You're raising your awareness. You're letting go of these limitations, these ideas of why you can't. You're going through the program, using your imagination for you. Bang, you've attracted something. Now, it's going to look like a quantum leap. But that quantum leap is also made up of those incremental progresses. What's Earl Nightingale say with The Stranger's Secret? If you've never heard it, I would definitely recommend you YouTube The Stranger's Secret by Earl Nightingale. And he says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It's the progressive realization, moving into form, of your goal. And that's exactly, you're already on that success path because you're progressively moving to the realization of your goal. When someone says, are you successful? What's that mean? Well, if you're moving towards that goal, you're successful. Right? So just keep going. Just keep going. I hope that answers your question, Mel. But yes, opportunities, the people will present themselves as you need it, as you're ready, as it's in harmony with that belief. So if the result that you're getting isn't to your liking, this is something that stood out to me yesterday, listening to Bob in something else. But he said, we don't deserve to suffer in this lifetime. So many people have this false belief that, oh, just this is what life threw at me. Guess I deserve to have it. No, that's not true at all. You deserve to be abundant. What has to change is the belief, all the beliefs that you have that are holding you back from being abundant. But you don't deserve to suffer. You don't deserve to struggle. And it shouldn't be the case. So when you start to change your perception about it and think, wow, the universe is always working for me, Spirit's working for me, God's working for me, whatever you want to put it. There's no one holding you and saying, oh no, Mel, it should be tough for you. No, it's only what we're assuming is going to be that will be. So suspend disbelief. You can. If only you knew what you're capable of, you would absolutely astound yourself. So I hope that little lesson worked for you. I love reading. I'm going to read it again. But it's very powerful. Repetition is extremely powerful. That is how you're going to change your paradigm. It really is. So have a lovely evening. If you have any other questions, feel free to send them through to Kat. She's always happy to pass them through, and I'll answer them if you have any more. All right, everyone, have a lovely week. I believe you don't have your lesson tomorrow morning. It's every fortnight, but you can just double check the page for any updates about that. Have an amazing week. I look forward to having you on next week as we keep moving through that repetition. Take care, everyone. Have a lovely night.